guys, and welcome to another episode of the Team Lead Talks podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Becker, out of Alexandria, Virginia. On today's episode, a new friend that I just made. We met each other on a bus in Nashville. Joe Iskander from Canada, of all places. Welcome,
Yeah,
Joe.
thanks for having me.
Where are you in Canada, Joe? Just so everyone knows.
I'm from Windsor, Ontario. It's just south of Detroit,
Okay,
Michigan. Yeah.
gotcha. And you told me on the bus, I think you work in Detroit or you work in the States and you cross the border every day?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right into it, man. Tell us a little high level, 30, 60-second background of who you are, what you do in real estate.
Yep. So my background is like in engineering. I do mechanical engineering, a little bit of test, like electrical engineering now. From that point, when I wanted to jump into real estate, I was like, okay, well, I have no idea where to start. Read a bunch of books. From that point, I was like, okay, Googling like maybe like a mentor or something like that. And then I found this mentorship in like Kitchener, Ontario, which is like 2 hours away from me. And it was a boot camp that was like the next day. So I drove there, ended up signing up for it. And then I was doing that for about a year. And then along that line, it was multifamily, strictly multifamily. And I was doing that all over Canada. So I did a lot of that. And then it was just failure after failure. And then from that point, I was like, okay, maybe I could transition to the US, figuring that out. And so from that point, led me to sales, from sales to wholesaling. And then now I'm doing like a wholesale real estate multifamily company in the US.
So you live in Canada, you're running a business doing real estate transactions in the United States, and it's strictly multifamily commercial type properties.
Yes, and we've kind of just recently integrated single family just for quicker deal cycles, but that's all just starting out. So we're going to see
Right,
how that
right.
turns out.
Yeah, how long have you been doing that, dude?
So all in all, like from real estate wise, like since I started from the very beginning, it's been like 2.5-ish years, almost three
Okay.
years.
But
Yeah.
just to clarify too, you have like a day job, right? And
Yep.
then you're building this business on your free time and kind of like as a side hustle now, hopefully to get, one day be what you do all day, every day.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm essentially trying to build this business so I can get myself out of my 9 to 5
All right, cool.
and then
And
just
what
do it
is
full time.
the structure of your business look like now? Is it just you? Do you have anyone helping you?
Yeah, so I work with someone named Paul. They're an operator and a like so I start when I started sales, I was actually working for him as like a closer so I could get kind of better at like the closing aspect of like real estate transactions.
Okay.
And
Doing
then
wholesale stuff or what? What kind of sales were you doing?
more of like mentorship stuff. So he does commercial real estate mentorship, and then I was working with him on closing, like for the mentorship side. And then
Yeah.
he's like, "Dude, you should do my real estate stuff. Like, work with me on my acquisition." And so I started doing that for like the last 6 or so months,
Cool.
and that's kind of how I got into like the U.S. market.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're working with Paul, you're making trying to get acquisitions to what's your exit strategy with, your partner? Do you only wholesale? Like what do you do?
So right now, the biggest focus is on wholesaling just to get like some cash like through the door with it. But we also do like flips, novations, those types of things.
Hmm.
It's a little bit more challenging when it comes to like the commercial side of things because we do like when it comes to commercial, it's like RV parks, mobile home parks, self storage, apartment buildings, those types of things. So the structure around those is a little bit challenging if you're doing like a novation for it, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But the flipping and that stuff is mainly for like the single family, which is like a recent development.
Gotcha. Okay. So you doing all of this, are you just logistically, you live in Canada, are you driving into the US to do like your acquisitions part with your partner, Paul? Or how do you actually do this from a different country?
So it's all remote.
All remote. Okay.
Yeah, it's all remote. I drive into work every day, so I'm on site because I am a test engineer. So I do that a lot. So every single day I'm in the office running tests. And then in my free time, like I either take like a close like an acquisition call or something like that if I get a lead in, and then running the team, all of that kind of stuff. It's just all strictly like over Zoom, just Slack, that kind of stuff.
Cool. All right. Dude, on the pre-episode kind of conversation we were having, you're talking about how you're relatively new here and you've just failed a lot. And if I can share, you're like, I don't know, like the value, like what I can bring since I'm so new. But I honestly think, and I don't mean to like make you embarrassed or anything, but I think like the majority of the people on the show have like on average been around for like 10 years and they have like established all this stuff and they might be a little jaded, but you are like brand new, fresh. And I think one of the big takeaways for the show here is like if anyone listening can learn like one thing, whether good to avoid or to do in their life or business, that's a win for both of us today. So if you don't mind, like if you're cool with kind of just opening up for the failure side of things since you're so new, like let's talk about that. Like what happened? What did you fail at? What was the scenario? Can you give us a few examples?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Let's
I
do
have
it.
gone. I have so many failures to talk about. This is going to be great.
Pick your top like one or two, and we'll start from there.
Okay, so my first deal, I could tell you about my first deal. So pretty much for like this deal, so I started off with like the mentorship side, and this was kind of geared towards more of the acquisition phase. But then I was so limited on capital that I couldn't acquire anything that was like worthwhile for it. And so
Just to interject real quick, you mentioned needing capital. What was the exit plan for this first deal that you were getting into?
I was planning on doing just like a buy and hold strategy for it.
Okay, okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So then that was mainly like what I was going to do, like learning about like in the inside of the mentorship. And then speaking to like my coach, he was just like, dude, like if you need like cash quickly, like you should try wholesaling. And I was like, okay, well, I know a lot of people like wholesaling in the US, but like I don't know anyone doing it in Canada. And so I met this dude at a conference and then he's like, "Oh yeah, like I can teach you." And then I hopped on a Zoom call, ended up signing up for like his mentorship. And then he was just like, "Okay, this is how you do it." And so I was like basically messaging a bunch of people on Facebook Marketplace that are like for rent by owner. And then I got a lead from there, like connecting through like a property manager. And then I went, saw the property, talked to the person, and the person was like, "Hey, I want 350,000 for it." It was a duplex.
Okay.
And then I tried to get him down on the price because I was like, okay, well, it needs about like $50,000 worth of renos, and I was like doing all like the formulas and stuff to try to get it. And then I didn't do any of the due diligence prior to it, and so I ended up locking up for like 330, got him down 20K. I was like, oh, I'll make a 20K assignment. It's
So you
gonna be
went
great.
under contract without really doing due diligence on the correct acquisition costs, and you didn't really have a way to execute on it if you actually wound up closing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
All right.
then,
So that, I'm getting the big picture of where you screwed up here, but continue.
yeah. So then I brought it to like the new mentor, and then he was just like, "Oh yeah, like this will be like an easy move, like no problem at all. It's
Yeah.
a duplex. Everybody wants a duplex." So then the demographic of it was it's in like a D level neighborhood. Okay, the back unit was actually shut down by the city because it was built without permits.
Something you learned about after you went under contract.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So then, yeah, so like pretty much it was literally built on deck blocks. And so like in Canada, there's like everything has to be below the ground, like below the freezing point. So like that's how you're supposed to build like additions to it. But my thought process was, oh, the zoning is this, so we could like tear it down and build like a 4 unit because it's zoned for that. But the cost of that is just way too much, especially like at the price point that I picked it up for. So in reality, like this would be $150,000 worth of renos, just 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 to fix the aspect of it and get it like sorted out with the city. So then I sent it out to a list that's not my own. It was like his list, and then I also marketed it on like Facebook as well. So then I got a few hits there, sent it to me. Everybody started passing on the deal. They were like, no, no, no. So then I was just like, okay, well, maybe I could partner up with somebody on it. And then a few people like reached out to me and I was like, okay, perfect. Like I could JV with someone and like actually just like execute it myself. So then I was like, okay, well, I need contractors. So then I messaged a bunch of contractors, and then the contractor that I did get quotes for have never done these types of jobs before, which another mistake. I never vetted the contractors that I was talking to.
Curiosity, how long
Okay.
was the closing timetable? Like what deadline were you up against to like figure all this shit out while you were making like some mistakes here?
Yeah, so it was 2 weeks of due diligence,
Okay.
And then it was like 30-day close from like when the contract was signed.
Dude, I don't know Canadian. Like, was this in Canada? You said?
Yeah,
Okay, I
this is
don't
in Canada.
know
Yeah.
like Canadian language for contracts. Is due diligence just like your inspection period where you can back out legally? Okay, so you had a legal way to back out if you needed to.
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's good. That's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
So then at this point, I was just like, okay, maybe I need to lock it up for like a different price point. So then I called a few of like my realtor friends who I just connected through like real estate groups and whatnot. And then they were like, yeah, this is a bad property. I was like,
Why?
okay, so like, what do I do about it? Because it was pretty much like in one of the worst areas. It's a high crime area. Your rent, like your tenant profile is going to be like all off. You're
Hmm.
not going to get as much as you think you're going to get for your rent as well. And then on top of that, it also needs a bunch of renos. So just no good overall.
Did that suck when you heard that?
Yeah, it did. And then they were like, but if you can get it for like this price point, it might be able to work. Like get it for like 280. So then I called the guy, try to renegotiate, and then the guy just like immediately shut it down. He's like,
Okay.
we've been losing on this like for the last 2 years. And then that's where another thing, before I got under contract, I didn't truly understand the pain point of like why they're selling.
You never asked?
I did ask, but they just gave me like a runaround answer, and I just took it. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like it's been vacant, and we just want to buy another property. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, that
But
works.
they didn't say like why it's vacant and, or you didn't find that out, I suppose.
No, they just said one of the tenants is moving out because they're done school, and then that was it. And I was just like, oh, so they could get another one, but like I would prefer it vacant because I want to put in a better tenant.
Yeah.
That's how I was thinking about it. I didn't
Right.
think about it from like, oh, what else is going on
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. Gotta
So
play
that's like,
detective, Joe. Get down to the core root cause of everything.
yeah, like honestly, like what I learned from that was never accept like the first answer from them and just really like almost kind of like press a little bit, like press where it hurts.
Yep.
And so like really, really dig deep from that and then figure out like what's the motivation? Like what's the true motivation before like behind like where their situation is, like really understand it.
Yeah. And probably not figure all that stuff out after you put it under contract, right?
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
else happened in this situation that you put yourself into? Did you like how did it all end?
Yeah, so then I ended up like talking to the person, and then the other thing too is like when you put something under contract, the contract that I used for it was just kind of vague. So like it said like business days versus like days. So like there was like a
Calendar
holiday.
days versus
Yeah, so there was like a holiday during that period, and so like
Mhm.
they were confused about the closing for it, and then
Yeah.
I was confused about it. And then I also put a lot of money down for like the EMD.
Was it refundable?
Yeah, it was refundable. But then the
Okay.
guy the other aspect of it was because these guys were very desperate to sell, they didn't want to send it back to me.
Who in Canada, how does it work? Who holds an EMD?
The lawyer's trust account.
The lawyer. So it
So
goes into an escrow. Okay. So not the owner, the homeowner.
mhm.
Okay.
But that was almost another thing too. Like that was another pitfall because originally this was like my first time getting a house under contract ever.
Okay.
And so I had no idea about the process in Canada. So when the person said send me the deposit, I was like, okay, like what's your account information? And then I would have completely lost it.
Yeah, you would have been screwed.
So then I talked to like my first like mentor about it, and then he was just like, oh hey, yeah, don't do that. And
At
I was
least
like,
you didn't do that, dude. How much can you share with us? Like, how much was the EMD?
3,000.
Okay, that sounds terrible.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it
at
would
the
have
same,
sucked, but it's not like the end of the world. 3K. At least it
yeah,
wasn't
but
like 20 or
it was a
30.
lot to me at the time too,
No,
because
no, yeah,
I was like, this is big for me. So I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm gonna do, and blah. So yeah, so lawyer's trust account, and then their lawyer was not gonna send it back to me, even though I canceled the contract with them. They didn't want to cancel it. They were like, no, we want it for this, and I was like, no, I actually can't. Like, I need that money back.
right.
And so,
Wait,
um,
so at this point, dude, you talked to who you needed to talk to after you put it under contract. You were still in this 2 week due diligence period in Canada that gave you the legal right to back out, and you executed on that right?
yeah, Yeah,
Okay.
but they were still like they were like telling their lawyer like no, 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 like we're not doing it. We're not going to take your word for it. It's not really canceled. We're not going to send it. And then the guy when after even after they did send it, the guy's just like, "Hey, like, because it was under due diligence, like shouldn't you like give me some of the money
Mm.
from like the deposit?" And I was just like, "No, like why would I do that?" So then I actually had to get like another lawyer involved with it. So I ended up like paying like the lawyer a little bit of money too, but like
On your
the
side.
yeah, on my side, but he basically just sent the email. He's just like, "Hey, this contract is canceled. You guys need to give the money by the end of the day. Otherwise, like we're going to take like legal action."
Yeah,
And
so you paid
so,
for like a demand letter.
yeah, so then he sent that and then they transferred over the wire information like to us and then I was able to actually get my money back. And so like as like a second way of like kind of getting money out of it, I talked to one of my realtor friends and then I told her about the whole situation. I was like, "Hey, like if I refer like you over to them, like would you be able to like actually like help them out of this situation?" Because then I kind of like understood for them.
Yeah.
So like I called the seller and I basically just told him like, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to be able to close on it, but I do have a really really good friend. She is a phenomenal realtor. She'll actually be able to sell it for you, and she's really really good at what she does. If you'd like, I can connect you to." And then she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, sure." So then I connected them, and then she was actually able to sell, and then she like kicked back some of her commission towards me, like to me.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's really impressive that you went through that on your first sale. Number one, it sucks that you went through that. Like that's a lot
yeah,
of like shit happening all at once
yeah.
for your first deal. But for you to have the wherewithal or the thought process of being like manning up and saying, I'm so sorry, I can't actually close on it, but I can still help you achieve your goals. Like I was not expecting that. That's pretty cool that
Yeah.
you're actually able to help him. But yeah, a lot like if looking back, dude, like what were your takeaways from that? What did you learn?
Always do due diligence. Like
Up
trust but
front?
verify.
Yeah.
Trust but verify is like a really, really big one for me. Understand the zoning prior to it and if there's anything like anything with the city. Because you can look up public record. And I didn't know that you could do that in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah. All US is like all open public records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see if there's like any like building violations, any permit violations for any property whatsoever. You can look that up and
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was another thing. And then just having a really strong network to like fall back on is really really important. So making sure that you go to events as much as like I'm a pretty introverted person and I don't really like to go to events,
Yeah.
but the fact that like you do go to the events and like see how people interact and whatnot and connecting with people, like you do meet a lot of people that could or could not help you. And then the last aspect is like if you have a big enough list, you can get pretty much any property sold as long as you understand like the demographic or how people are thinking.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a lesson in like the deal I did after that and one after that and after that. So like always 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 build up your list, understand what the criteria is that people are going through, like are people that need, and then really understand like the pain point for why they're selling.
Yeah. We had a rule on our team when I was doing sales, Joe, where it was like uncover every stone and be able to bring a deal to us as the leaders or the team leaders and explain to me like the exact situation without me having to be like, well, Joe, why are they really selling? And you're like, oh, well, they just want to buy something new. Like there's always a deeper, deeper, like kind of like the approach of like why you ask why like six or seven times to get to like the real true answer. So that was always something that we thought was incredibly important. So you kind of like came in guns a blazing and lit on fire for your first deal. Did you want to quit after that?
No, I
No.
didn't because I wanted to deal so bad.
Yeah.
Like I really, really did. Like with absolutely like with everything in me. Like that's what I wanted. And so like when I went through the first one, it don't get me wrong, it absolutely sucked. And I was like kind of like I was just like kind of like in a bad position where I was just like, I'm just gonna keep going. And I'm just like, I'm gonna try a different strategy. And so I started like a direct mail campaign after that.
Yeah.
And
Dude,
then that's when I launched my first one.
yeah, you were in the room in Nashville with me in Bill's office, right? Where he had that like scenario of like the wholesaler, the dude didn't want to come down, and no one really knew the to go to a different exit strategy, right?
Yeah.
That you did that on your very first deal. and you like tried to figure out how to actually help this homeowner, which is like super important because that's like your branding and you as a human, right? So pretty cool. Hard lesson learned, but
Yeah,
did you make money or lose money? Like I know you got a little bit back, but
I made money on that deal.
okay, that's
Yeah,
actually pretty cool.
yeah. So I did make some money once like that property did sell, but it was just because of like the network that I had. And
Yeah,
like honestly, I did really feel for them because like when I really understood for them, they were like, yeah, like I'm trying to put my daughter through college.
yeah,
I've actually been eating the cost of this entire property for like the longest time. And he actually got screwed over by a realtor and a mortgage broker
mm,
when he first bought the property because he bought it during COVID. And when he bought it during COVID, he overpaid it for the property by like 100K because like
oh,
it was
no.
like him and just his business partner that just did it because they were like, whatever, like we just want a property like everybody
Yeah,
else. So they were like just trying to get their money back for it. And I understood that afterwards and I was like, okay, it was like a bad
yeah.
buy and they're just trying to recoup what
Yeah.
they
It seems like, and I know you learned a lot from that. I would say the most important takeaway there is acquisition price. And this is kind of true for what you just told me about the actual seller is if you acquire it at the right price or even below what we would think is the off market right price, even if all this stuff happens and, fires pop up everywhere, there's margin of error, right? But if
yeah,
you don't acquire at the right price, like when you originally got it for 250 or 230 or whatever it was, there was like very little that could go wrong. A lot went wrong, unfortunately for you, but like if you had it at 150, you probably would have been in a much better off position because of that differentiation of like the acquisition. So that's like one of the most important things for whoever's listening, like if you're getting into wholesaling or buying and flipping, like if you buy it at the wrong price, you have to pray that everything goes right. And in real estate, does everything go right?
never,
Like never.
never,
So
never.
acquisition costs to me is like incredibly important. So
Yeah,
good
yeah,
good that you actually acknowledge,
yeah.
your lessons that you learned. So what's another, can you share like another, like you got out of that one head above water, like what did you do next after that?
So after that, I was just like, okay, I'm going to stop doing like the sweat marketing and I'm going to start doing some paid marketing.
Okay.
So then I launched my first direct mailer campaign. And then again, this is like full of holes. So I was like, okay, like what do I need to do? And so like Canada Post has requirements for direct mailers. I didn't
Okay.
know that.
Can we stop before you get into that? Like, you thought about doing direct mail and did it for your second attempt to do your, I guess, second deal. Where did you get the list? How did you know who to mail? How did you know what to say?
So I got that from like the wholesaling mentor. Like I got his letter. So I just adapted it to mine. I needed
What's
like
the
a
letter
website.
say? Like, generally, what did it say?
I'm looking at buying house like 3 houses and the next month. I'm looking at closing cash. Like if you have any back taxes, force whatever it is, that's like the exact property that I'm looking to buy.
Okay.
Give me a call and then we can figure something out. And if you've referred me a property, I'll pay you a referral fee.
Okay, cool. So basically, if you're in a situation, I can help get you out of it with leave everything behind, no closing costs, that kind of thing. But who did you identify to even send that to in the first place?
Yeah. So again, like in Canada, there's no public record for like you can't really skip trace in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's like certain things that you have to do, maybe like connect with people. And this is what I did for like the third time for like apartment buildings. I did that. But for like the single family houses, I just did it along routes, like mailing routes.
Okay. So,
So
like
I select,
in certain areas, you mean?
yeah, so I selected certain areas based off of like the precision targeter
Okay.
on like the post website.
Gotcha.
And then it said that I needed like 3,000 flyers for it. So then I just printed 3,000 flyers. And then it said like you need to stacks in like 100. So I separated each 100 with like a yellow paper.
You had to
But then I
drop them
ended up,
off somewhere.
and then I dropped them off at the post office. And then they're like, hey, this is the wrong paper. Like you can't ship it out like this.
Shit, that sucks.
And then I was like, that was a lot of money that like I wasted for it. And
Yeah,
then I basically just called the guy back and I was like, hey, listen, like this is my first time doing this. And like I just want to know, like, is it completely impossible that like you send them out? And the
Yeah.
guy's like, "Are you gonna be doing this a lot?" I'm like, "Most likely." And then the guy's like, "Okay, you know what? We'll let it go the first time," which was
Nice.
like amazing. So the guy like let it through, and then they like shipped
Like
it all out.
your wrong paper that you used.
Yeah,
What is just we don't need to focus on this, but I'm just like a curious person. Like, what was wrong with the paper that you sent?
you can't just use regular printer paper. It's got to be like a thicker type of paper if you're doing
Well, you were
postage.
literally sending like computer printer paper with no envelope. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Good job, Joe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You printed all this stuff yourself or like at a store and then you have to bundle it and take it to it kind of sounds we have something similar in the United States called every door direct mail where
yeah,
hey, I want this zip code and they're like cool 114 mail pieces and then you have to package it up in like 5,000 bundles and take it to like the distribution center. So you
yep,
have something similar in Canada.
yeah. That's it.
Okay, cool. So what? Okay, so now you didn't have to eat the cost of printing, though you might have had to, and he let you send it out. What happened after that?
So then I did 3,000 flyers. I got 50 calls from it.
Is your cell phone number on this letter?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But I had like a separate one. Like it records the calls that come in too.
cool.
So no, I was like one man operation. So every single call that came in, I picked it up. And then when I picked it up, a lot of these people were just like, "F you, like why are you
Yeah,
like calling my like all that stuff." And then from that point I got like 3 or 4 appointments that were like actually qualified. And then
nice,
I got one contract from there.
awesome.
The guy, yeah. So that deal was a little bit iffy because like the guy really wanted a quick close. So his background is that his wife passed away, and then his son killed himself in the RV park.
Oh my
Like
god,
sorry, in like his RV next door.
yeah,
And so like this guy's like retired, pretty much giving up on life. He's like, I don't want this place. Like I just want to be done with it.
okay,
And then I went over to his house, and then he was like, I'm like, well, like, why? Like, this is before he told me this story, but I basically just asked him, like, why, like, what's going on, whatever. And then he's like, it's too much maintenance. He's like, my grass is long. Like, I just, like, miserable. Like, I don't want to do anything for it, like, whatever. And then he eventually told me about his son. And I felt really, really bad for the guy. And I was just like, you know what? Like, maybe I could bring my lawnmower over here and just, like, cut his grass for him, just, like, make it a little bit better. Right.
did
So
you do
then no, he ended up having the guy like come and just cut the grass for
that?
him.
Okay,
But I got it under contract there. He wanted like 350 k for it, and then according to the comps, they were around 300 in that area. So I was like, okay, so like this probably could like sell for like 330, and so I locked it up for 310. So I was like, okay, like maybe I can make like maybe 5-10k whatever on it,
hmm
and it would be pretty good. But the issue here was that he wanted a really quick closing. He's like, I want to be done in 2 weeks. So I only had 1 week of due diligence for that time. So literally, the moment it was signed, due diligence starts once you put down your EMD. So I put $1,000 down for EMD, and then just got to work, like messaging a bunch of people, sending it out to a list. I only had like 20 people on my list or something like that.
like your cash wireless you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So then I was still like meeting people for like at like events and whatever, bringing deals to them. And then I had like 3 interested people to do it. And then so I brought down the 3 people to like actually like walk the property with me. And
hmm
then it was like that was kind of like nerve wracking because it was the first time like the owner was like there at the
what did
same
you tell
time.
him who these people were?
I just told him they were my partners. So when I told him that they were my partners, he was just like, "Oh, okay." And then these people like came up, and then like some of them like were kind of like odd. And then he was just like, "I don't really know. Like, I don't really think that you're partners." And I was like, "Oh, like don't worry, bro. Like we're gonna talk about it, whatnot." And then I also brought some contractors too, in case like I wanted to like flip the property myself.
Yeah,
So vetted the contractors myself this time, and like it was really really light. It was just like paint, that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, like it only needs like about like 10k worth of work. Like it's really not that much. But then I found out after that this is like again based off like the first lesson that I didn't really learn, which is checking it with the city. So this guy actually split his lot prior to selling me the property.
okay.
So he
And
split
did
his
not
lot.
disclose this to you?
He did not tell me this.
Okay. For
So
what
he split
reason
the
or
lot.
purpose? To sell the vacant side of the lot?
Yeah, so he had a house on one side of the lot, and it was a really, really big property.
So you thought it was this big
But
property with one. one,
one small house
building.
on it,
Yeah.
because you could have tore that down and you could have built like an apartment building on it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, this would be a great buy. But then I found out that he sold it to one of his contractor buddies for like 100K, just like the land itself, like half of the land. So he sold that, and then he sold this plot of land to me for like 310, but like it was just under contract for it.
So it already
So then
closed
when
with
I
his
looked,
buddy for 100K, like the land part of the property that you thought you were buying 100% of, it was actually like 30%.
yep,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he sold the land on it, which like I didn't know until like he disclosed it like afterwards. So then that was like another thing too.
Yeah.
So then pretty much like the people that I was talking to for like the cash buyers, are like, yeah, like we could take it off your hand for like 310.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that's what I have it for. So then I tried going back and like renegotiating with the guy, and I was just like, hey, like based off of like the construction costs and whatnot, and like because like the land, the plot of land is like split up, like I just need to like, can you work with me a little bit on the price? And the guy's just like, no.
Damn.
And I
Even
was like,
after
oh
it was kind of like I don't know, bait and switch is the right term here, but like even after you found that out, he was unwilling to budge when the plot of
yeah,
land significantly decreased in size and exit strategy, like went out the window because you couldn't build an apartment building on the remaining land.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Okay.
pretty much switched from like an apartment building like redevelopment type of thing, where like a fix and flip,
Yeah.
to and or like a wholesale, like those types of strategies, like they kind of like went out the window. So
Yeah.
then I pitched him, I was like, okay, maybe we could do like owner financing. And then he was just like against that. And so like at that point, like the deal was kind of dead. So like I was like, okay, I have 2 more days to like really, really do this. Then I went back to Facebook, started messaging everybody I knew about it. And then they were like, based off of the comps. And then so I went back to like another realtor, and then I talked to them about it. And then they were like, hey, like in your pictures, there's only 2 beds and 1 bathroom. But on MLS, it says like 3 beds, 1 bath. So like, where's the other bedroom? And then I was like, okay, well, I didn't know that that makes like the biggest difference. Like I thought it was just square footage. So like that was like another thing too, like because I
Yeah.
didn't know. So then from that point, I found out that he actually converted the bathroom into a bedroom, and then moved the bathroom to the other side, and then opened up 2 bedrooms on like together.
Okay.
And then that's why I had the RV outside where people can like go and like stay there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's
Dude,
what
your
that's
first
it
two
was.
deals were crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And then pretty much like I kept hitting like up the people that like ended up walking the property and all that. And then the one guy was just like, yeah, like this is not gonna work for me. He's like, he actually told me, it's like I could close in 45 days. And I was like, I need you to be able to close in 2 weeks. And then he was just like, he's like, if it's at 300, I could do it at that. And I was just like, well, it's at 310. So I could give it to you at 310. I just want it sold. And like, it was like, even if I make like no money on it, at least I just assigned a property. Like, and I'm good.
Okay.
And
So
then
what did
that
you
fell
get out
through.
of this one?
Same deal. Like the guy was just basically like, hey, like it doesn't look like you're gonna close on it. This is what the owners, like the seller, said to me. And I was like, it doesn't look like you're closing. I'm just like, yeah, based off of this, like we can't really budge on price. So like I'm gonna have to like pretty much back out of it. And then he's like, oh well, that does suck. So he's like, if you change your mind on it, like one day, like whatever. And I tried going for like the same thing where I was like, hey, like if you want a realtor, then like I have one that, could move this for you. And then he's like, no, I'm good. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and then he's just started being like really difficult at that. And then got my money back from like the EMD, and then just started working other deals. And then at that point I was like, okay, you know what? I think like apartment buildings is what all I underwrote during like my mentorship. So I was like, I know apartment buildings. Like I can think of like different exit strategies. Like I can do that. So then I went back to like the wholesaling mentor, and I was like, hey, like I want to do apartment buildings. And then he's like, okay, well, the list for it is going to be like $1,000. And then I was like, okay, sure, no problem. And then it was like a few weeks, checked back in with him. I was like, hey, like, where are we at with it? And then he was like, it's actually $2,000. And I was like, odd, but whatever. If it's $2,000, whatever, I'll pay it. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I just want the list. So, and he got me a list of 563 apartment buildings in like Windsor and its surrounding areas, 7 units and up, like purpose built apartments with like the owner information. So then I designed this like marketing campaign for it. It was like a more sophisticated letter. It basically says sophisticated buyers, no tire kickers, stuff like that.
Okay.
Put all those in envelopes, shipped it out to all of them. So 500 letters, I got 30 responses. From the 30 responses, I walked 12 properties from those, and then I drove all around for all these properties. And then I negotiated one property. I got a 19 unit under contract. The 19 unit that was under contract, I got it. The person was originally asking a 3.1 million for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got it down to 2.8.
Okay.
And so one thing about Canada, especially when it comes to apartment buildings, there's pretty much like one main exit strategy that everybody does, which is CMHC, which is pretty much like a government type of mortgage. So it's backed by the government, and like they give really long amortization periods. So like right now, like it's like 45 to 50 years amortization,
Mm-hmm.
and then really preferable interest rates as well.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, like this can work. And then I did like CMHC underwriting for it and everything. And I was like, wow, this is the only apartment building I've ever seen like actually cash flow at this price.
Okay.
So this was also a really, really long negotiation. I was negotiating with like the seller for like 2 months. Like I was literally going to like, they invited me over to like their house, like sat with them, like had like tea and biscuits with them every single, because they were like, oh, like they built this from like when they were really like when they were starting out.
Yeah.
So it was like their first thing. So then I checked like if there's any open permits and all that. Like I finally learned. And then I was like, okay, it's clear on the permits. It's clear on this. It's clear on everything. Like I think we're good here. So I ended up signing the stuff. And then at this point, the EMD was like 10K.
Mm-hmm.
But then I spent so much money that I wasn't really accounting for at this point on marketing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I talked to one of my buddies and I was like, hey, if this deal goes through, I will like, you give me the 10K, I will give you like an extra 5K on top of it if it like
Okay.
goes through. If it doesn't, I'll just give you 2K for like borrowing.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, yeah, sure. So like he goes through, like does that. It's under contract now. And then I sent it out same exact way to like Facebook Marketplace, like to cash buyers, like whatever, all that, like all the groups and stuff. What I didn't know about apartment buildings, especially this, is that the sellers were talking to a lot of different people about buying it. And so all the people that they were talking to saw that on Facebook. And so they started calling and they were like, hey, this person's trying to rip you off. That person's trying to do this, all this kind of stuff. And then so she calls me and then she's just like, hey, like Joe, like they're saying a lot of things about you. Like, I don't think it's true. Like I didn't get that from you. Like, what's going on? And I was like, honestly, I have no idea. Like, what can you give me like some context, like what's going on with it? And then they basically just told me like all these different kinds of things. And then so I talked to one of like the realtor, like this other realtor that I know who's like really, really well known in the area.
Okay.
And then he's like, send me the details for the deal. So I sent him the details for the deal. He went behind my back, talked to the seller. And then he's just like, hey, cut off this deal with like this guy and then I'll buy it from you instead.
Dang. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
then she basically just told the guy, she's like, no, like I'm dealing with Joe. Like I'm going to work with Joe.
Awesome.
Okay. Just because I built really good rapport with her.
Yeah, that's good, dude. Okay. So how'd this one play out?
Okay, so started like we sent it out to a list, like the wholesale mentors like lists, like he sent that out, and then we got like a few interested people like asking about it and whatnot, and then it came down to 2 serious buyers. Okay, the first buyer, I was like trying to vet him. I spoke to him for like 2 hours, like trying to like understand every single thing, like every aspect about it. The guy was just like, he's like, yeah, like I bought like 40 something properties. I have a 40 unit that I just bought. Like this is going to fit in my portfolio.
He seemed legit.
Okay. And then the other dude was like, I'm going to give you 2.7 million for it. This is my criteria for it. It's got to pass this. I've looked at this property before. It needs a phase 2. I'm sure of it. So phase 2 environmentals, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but this property behind it is a railway. So in Canada, in order for you to buy an apartment building, you need to like the lenders will need you to do an environmental study on the property, which can range to a lot of money. A phase 1 typically will cost you around $5,000. a phase 2 can cost anywhere between 20,000 and 40,000 depending on who's doing it. So the first guy who's like just like, you know, like nice and like friendly and all that kind of stuff, like never told me about any of this stuff. Right? So then he was just like, hey, like I can give you 2.8 for it. And then the other dude who's telling me like I've looked at this property before, he's like, I want the sellers to do the phase 2. If it comes back clean, I will close on the property whenever they want.
Okay.
At 2.7.
What do you have it for?
2.8.
2.8. Okay.
So I had to renegotiate it down. So then I talked to the other guy now, and then the other guy's like, I could do it for 2.81 is what I got him to. So then I was just like, okay, you're my guy then.
For like a 10K spread.
Yeah. And I was just like, whatever, like at least it's something. So then I went to the guy, gave him the, like, sent him the assignment agreement. He was like about to like sign it. But then I was like, okay, wait, so then I talked to a lawyer friend of mine, and then he basically told me, he's like, hey Joe, like you have to understand, like when you're doing an assignment, it's like you basically go in a room with like these two people and then you leave the room. So once you assign that agreement, it's between that person and the seller. It's, you have nothing to do with it. So if you want to renegotiate the deal, you renegotiate the deal now and then assign it. So then I was like, got it. So then I called the seller now, and then I basically just told her, hey, based off of this, and like it might need a phase 2 and whatnot, this is like I need it at like a 2.7. So then she flipped out and she's like, Joe, they told me that you were going to do this. All these people from Ecuador told me that you were going to do this. And I was like, listen, like this is like anyone in my situation would do the same exact thing. I'm just being upfront with you about it and telling you that it's going to need a phase 2 because of this. Okay. And at this point, like we walked the property, did an inspection, all that kind of stuff too. So then she was like pissed about it. And then I was like, okay, like let's talk tomorrow. So I talked to her the next day and I was like, where are we at with it? And then she was like, Joe, like I just want you to know, like I'm actually like really, really upset about this. Right. And then we like went back and forth a few times, and then I was actually able to get it down to like 2.775. Mm-hmm. And this is the mentor I was working with. He hopped on the phone with them too, and then he basically just said like, hey, like this is what we could do for it, whatever, because like I had no idea how to kind of go about this aspect of it. So paid the mentor, paid everything. Like he was just like, I'm just gonna help you get your first deal. Like that was like the agreement with like whatever it is. So then I finally got it at 2.775. The amendment was signed, sent to the lawyer, all that was taken care of. Then sent that over to the buyer. It was like officially signed. I was gonna make 35K off of it. Okay. And I was like, wow, like this is absolutely awesome. And then I sent the guy like the lawyer's trust account information. So he was going to transfer that over like for like the EMD and all that stuff. So that was like all taken care of. And I was like, wow, I finally like assigned like my first deal. And I was like super, super excited about it.
Yeah.
And then the mentor I was working with, he calls me up and then he goes, hey, Joe, I want 50% of this deal. Like your assignment, like I deserve 50% of it. And I was like, whoa. Like I thought, like I paid you already to like mentor me on this. Like I don't know where this is coming from. He goes, you wouldn't have this deal without me. And I was like, true, but I also already paid you for this, and like I also paid you an extra 2K for this and this and this and this. He goes, think about it and let me know. So then I thought about it for a few days, and I was like, okay, well, like he's pretty good, like whatnot. I don't mind sharing, right? But at least I want to recoup my costs, like my marketing and all that stuff. So I called them back. I was just like, hey, like after like profit wise and everything, I can give you like 30% of it. But at the same time, like I just felt uneasy about it because I was like, why didn't you like tell me this from the very beginning?
Yeah, not cool.
Yeah, it wasn't cool. So then that happened. And then this is the part where I also messed up on, where it's just like once you assign something, you have to check on the buyer and you also have to check on the seller to keep them updated, keep them in the loop, just to make sure that like everybody's engaged, like nobody's like worried. So then I contacted the guy I assigned at the buyer, and then he basically just told me, he goes, hey, turns out it needs a phase 2. And I was like, but you knew this. And then he goes, yeah, I want the seller to pay for it. And I was like, okay, but that wasn't our agreement. Like we already talked about this. And then he goes, yeah, but like this is what needs to be done. And I was like, well, what do you mean it needs to be done?
Was it closed already at this point or no?
No, it wasn't closed.
Okay.
Because he was going to go do like the same type of financing. So then we went back and forth about it, and then I called the seller and I was like, hey, like, how about this? And then she was just like, Joe, I went down the price. I did this. You said it was for the phase two, and now you want me to pay for it? Like, what are we talking about here? And I was like, if it comes back clean, the guy will pay for it. It's not a problem. If it doesn't, at least you have a phase two. Like, that was like the agreement that we kind of came up with. So then the seller was like really, really pissed about that one. And then she's like, Joe, like, cannot do that. Absolutely not. And then she was just really, really like pissed about it. And then she's like, I want to be out of this deal. Like, I want to like cancel this contract now. So then I called back the buyer and I was like, hey, like, is there anything that we can do about this? And then at this point, like, I'm kind of getting a little bit desperate in the deal. And like at this point, I kind of felt like also like very, very alone because like I didn't have like a mentor to go to because I was just like really uneasy about that 30% as well. Like I was still going to pay it, but like I was just uneasy about that. And I didn't know if like he actually had like best interest in mind.
Yeah.
So then the guy was basically like the buyer now, he was like, well, this is what it is. So if you want, like we can cancel the contract and whatnot. So I was just like, okay, fine, we'll cancel the contract. Like I'm giving up on this then. And so I sent him like the termination agreement. And then I was like, send me like your trust account information so I can have like the lawyer like wire you back like the money. So then he was like, hey Joel, hold on. Like let's figure this out. And I was like, what do you mean figure this out? Like we already talked about this. Like you said you're done. And then he goes, no, there's things that we can like figure out for it. And I was like, okay. So then I tried the other buyer going back to him and like asking him like, hey, like, is this something that you might be able to do, whatever? And he's like 2.7. That's my number. That's what's going to make sense for me. And then they pay for this. Like those are my requirements. Those are the same thing. So it was like pretty much dead at that point. And then the guy comes back, like the main buyer that I assigned it to, found out that he didn't even send the money to the lawyer's trust account in the first place.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. So that was another thing.
EMD's going in, man.
Yeah, I have to because like we don't have title companies in Canada that like do that. So I had to do it and I didn't know that. So that was like another mistake that I made too.
Joe, was this your third deal now?
This is my third deal, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Continue.
I know.
Dude, you're crazy, man. Okay. But how did you get out of this one? What happened?
So it was like the due diligence period was coming to an end and I was able to get it extended with like the seller. So I got it extended and then I was still trying to find another buyer. I couldn't end up finding another buyer for it. But two people reached out to me. They're like, hey, like we might be able to JV on this with you. And I was like, this is perfect. Like we can actually like make it happen. And then when we were talking about it, they were like, oh, but it needs a phase two. And I was like, it's not that big of a deal. Like the phase two is going to pass. Like I know it will. And at that point I was just like, hey, I'm going to put the money down for the phase two. Like I'll figure it out. Like I was like, I'll borrow the money, whatever it is. Like I'll put the money down for phase two. And then my first mentor gives me a call and then he's like, hey Joe, what's going on with this deal? And then I basically just told him everything. And then
the mentor that also said I want 50%.
No. My very first one for multifamily. So he called me up and then he's just like, Joe, like what's going on with this? So I told him, and then he's like, Joe, I think you should let go of this deal. He's like, you are getting like really, really emotional about it. And like, you're getting like really, really worked up and like, you're going to do something. Like if you want to pay for like a phase two for this and it comes back negative, then you've lost everything for it.
Yeah.
He's like, you are way over leveraged for this. Like you don't need this. Like it's like, he's like, just let it go pretty much. And that was really hard to hear, especially like after like all of the work that I put in for it.
Yeah.
So then I talked to like the buyer about it. And then I was just like, hey, like we're dissolving this agreement and whatnot. And then he was like, no, we have it signed. I'm not dissolving it until like the very last day. So then I talked to like my first mentor again. And then he goes, if there's no money down, the deal's done. Anyway, like there's nothing to validate the contract. Like you tell him, like,
no consideration at that point, right?
Exactly. He's like, tell him to F off pretty much. So I told the guy that, and then he was like, he just like was like done at that point. And then I got that like dissolved. And then I got the other one, like the contract canceled as well. So then everything was like canceled at that point. And then I was like, again, I tried going back to the seller. I was just like, hey, like, I know like everything that went down, no hard feelings between us. Mm-hmm. But if you need a realtor, like I have one, she's really, really good. She can like help you out with this. And then they're like, no, like we have like a few people like we're going to talk to and like just sell it directly. Like it's fine. And I was like, okay, cool, no problem. And then I was able to get like the money back, pay back my friend. And then when I talked to him about it, he's just like, no, Joe, like I will help you out, no problem.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're all good. But like he's like, don't even send me like the 2K. Like just put it into the next deal.
Okay. And that was that?
So that was that deal. Yeah.
Dude, the thumbnail for this episode is going to be 3 of the most insane first deals I've ever heard stories about. Dude, the
Yeah.
fact that you're still in real estate, like never quitting, is like crazy. Those are like really, really hard emotionally, physically, sweat equity. Like you put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah.
I would, dude, normally at the like towards the end of each episode, I normally ask for like a, can you share a resource? Do you have a book that you like? But I feel like lesson learned was, this is the most lessons learned I've ever heard of anyone. Not to say like nothing against you, you just didn't know what you didn't know at the time. But now I
Yeah.
know a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About Canadian markets, kind of.
About Canadian markets. Yes, you know a
Yeah.
lot. So if anyone listening is in the Canadian market and they want to hear some crazy stories, I'm sure you have more. I don't know. But dude, that's nuts
Yeah.
that you like have stuck it out. That's very like impressive. You should be like really proud of yourself. I would have quit
Yeah.
after like the first deal, man.
I wanted to at that point.
Yeah,
And then I was like, what is my biggest deficiency right now? And it was
yeah,
like negotiation. So then I
yeah,
was like, okay, maybe I should learn sales. And
yeah,
then I
yeah.
got into sales. And then from that point,
Well,
I went to
very.
American markets.
I'm really glad we got to reconnect after a short time together in Nashville,
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing these like horror stories, maybe lesson stories with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I learned a lot from them, and like it was very like hard to kind of like get back into it, especially
Yeah,
like after like failure after failure after failure, and like all of like the money like wasted. Like I wouldn't say it's wasted because like I did learn from it, and so like I just look at it as tuition, just paid. That's it. Like
that's a
ignorance that you're
really
paying down.
fantastic way to look at things. And it's
Yeah,
true. Like, I'm sure a lot of people listening have screwed up, maybe not so many times in a row, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you can keep that mindset through those first 3 deals, you can do whatever you want to do, man. So I'm
absolutely,
excited to stay in touch with you and kind of hear. We'll have you back on soon to share some positive, uplifting stories. But
absolutely.
any parting words of wisdom, or I feel like you gave us enough here.
Honestly, just don't give up and go after what you really want. That's it.
Cool. Perfect. Well,
Yeah,
we're going to include some information to contact you, Joe, if people do want to reach out and, pick your brain about the Canadian market. So that'll be in the episode description here. But thank you so much. Stick around so we can chat a little bit after. But thanks so much for sharing. I really appreciate it, man.
absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Bye, man.